Welcome to Culture Talk. This is the segment where we talk about culturally relevant topics that you can use to start conversations about your faith. I'm joined today with philosopher and theologian Kenneth Samples. Thank you, Ken, for joining us.
Glad to be with you.
We're going to be talking about a topic that you've written about and one that I'm pretty excited to talk about, and that is about Halloween. Should Christians celebrate Halloween? So let's really just dive in. A big concern that some Christians have is that Halloween is connected to some form of paganism. And so that's the concern, is that they don't want to be involved in anything that originated from paganism.
Yeah, well, like a lot of holidays, including Christmas and Easter, the dates of some of these Christian holidays also overlap with days that were considered, for example, pagan festivals. So around October 31st, maybe before or on or after, there was an ancient Celtic festival that was called, I think the pronunciation is Samhain, and it was kind of the end of harvest, the beginning of winter, kind of the cycle of life and death. And that day was, of course, dedicated to the pagan gods. Well, October 31st overlaps with that. And so some people would say that that pagan holiday has been passed on to us today.
So with regard to kind of the origin of Halloween, or the pagan origin, and now what we have today is October 31st, Halloween, there's that concern that there are some rituals attached with
Right.
the holiday for Halloween, like the cutting of jack-o'-lanterns
That's right.
and such. So how would you respond to concerns about engaging in things that, with our intent behind it, it's innocent. Our intent to give out or receive candy is innocent, but it's tied to pagan origin?
Yeah, I think a couple things. One, I think that you need to realize that Halloween was also influenced by Christian holidays. For example, the name Halloween is derived from All Hallows Eve, the night before All Saints' Day. So there is kind of a mixing of both pagan influence with Christian influence. The other thing that I would say, however, is you have to be very careful logically that you don't evaluate something totally in terms of its origin, because things change, they develop, they move forward. And so many of the practices that contemporary people today, like sending their kids out in spooky outfits and collecting candy, it's probably very different in orientation than the way some pagan festivals would be. So I think you have to you want to think really clearly and carefully in drawing some of these logical distinctions.
You brought up the origin issue and being careful to not attach how we celebrate holidays today to their origin. Wouldn't that be the case then for holidays like Christmas and Easter that also have pagan origins, but we celebrate them under the Christian perspective and from a Christian worldview?
Yeah, I think so. And I actually think the ancient and medieval church had very good insight. They realized that they lived in a part of the world that had been influenced by non-Christian thinking, pagan thinking, if you will. And they would often take these days that were known to be days of pagan celebration, and they would try to turn them toward a spiritual commitment. So instead of celebrating pagan ideas, they would emphasize the birth of Christ or the resurrection of Christ. Or on October 31st, the celebration of All Saints' Day, all the saints that had passed on to be with the Lord. So in some ways, I think the church was trying to engage in evangelism and apologetics.
Yeah, that's a good reminder, just how we've kind of diverted our attention away from the pagan origins to something that would at the worst be more neutral, as opposed to really focusing on the occult. Now, that we do definitely see that with regard to some Halloween celebrations. So what advice would you give on how we engage celebrating Halloween without opening up the door to be opposed.
Yeah, very important. I think all Christians need to evaluate kind of controversial issues like this. I think the way is look at scripture, to look at good common sense, and to look at your conscience. I mean, I tell parents, look, if you're really uncomfortable with any kind of participation in Halloween, I respect that. I I think, however, you also don't want to create what I call a party pooper view of God. I remember, for example, when I was like in third or fourth grade, we would have a Halloween party at the public school that I went to, Christmas parties. And I remember that there were two people in the class that were part of a particular religion, and they had to go sit in the corner. And I remember even as a child, I thought, wow, I'm glad I'm glad I'm not part of that. I, so if you're uncomfortable with Halloween, maybe a church party or, something that lets your kids understand that God's not against having fun. And, it's pretty hard to resist getting candy bars. You want to communicate that. So those are some of my recommendations. I let my kids go trick or treating. They didn't dress up in what I thought were inappropriate outfits, but they dressed up in fun. And I'll tell you, all three of my kids, right after Christmas, Halloween was their favorite holiday.
Yeah, and you know what? That's actually the what the numbers show too, as far as sales and the money that comes in
Yeah,
from different holidays. Halloween is right on the heels of Christmas. People spend a
right,
lot of money on Halloween, and you know what? It really is a good opportunity to, of course, we have COVID now that we have to think about.
sure,
But under normal circumstances, that's such a great opportunity to have people who you wouldn't normally engage with, have them on your church campus, or have them in your, a front yard party or something.
yeah,
Again, I like what you're saying, that it's not to say that people have to celebrate something that they're uncomfortable with, but really to kind of dive into thinking about it and being careful how we think about it, and not tying it to things that it's kind of evolved
right.
away.
And dark images have been used in literature. I mean, two of my favorite authors, Lewis and Tolkien, they use kind of dark images, but they use them to project a Christian view of reality. So, you want to be respectful of other people's views, but you also want to be able to appreciate that not every Christian's going to come to the same conclusion.
Right. Thank you so much for that conversation. So if you want to hear more on this topic, go to reasons.org and search for the tricky topic of Halloween. And before we go, Ken, I've got a very important question for you. What's your favorite Halloween candy?
It's got to be, there's something absolutely delightful about chocolate and peanut butter coming together. So it's got to be a Reese's peanut butter cup.
Good choice there. Well, there you have it.